Hello gentles and ladymen, I am Bison Storytime, and today we are doing a speed painting of the Tobi Kadachi model for Monster Hunter Worlds, the board game. I have already painted Great Jagras and Baroth, but starting with Tobi Kadachi, I would like to turn it into a series here on this channel. So, we are starting with just a base dark blue color as our base color for Tobi Kadachi, and we will work our way from there. Tobi Kadachi is actually not blue all over his body, he is actually tan colored on the belly, so we are going to be using Talon Sand as our base color there. I know it says layer, but I just don't have a tan base coat. So we're dealing. Lothern Blue here adds a very vibrant quality to the model, as it is a very aqua and aquamarine colored blue. You'll see me doing this technique a lot with future paints for highlighting purposes such as this, but in order to get most of the paint off of the brush, I will just find something that I know is going to be filled with this color, and get a majority of the paint off so that I can go lightly over the scales and not completely cover the paint in the model in one color. So as you can see, we are going on the sides and then on the very outer edge of the tail with this color whenever we refresh our paintbrush, and then we are afterwards going over and coloring in all the scales. Hoyth blue is a much more muted blue by comparison, and will serve to help ground this model after we just made it much more vibrant than it would be in real life. The oddly named Horror Blue is what I am using for the bright fur on Tobi Kadachi's tail, as well as some highlights on the high-standing scales. I am brushing backwards across the big scales so that it only goes onto the edges of them and really makes them pop out quite a bit. With 4 different shades of blue scattered somewhat randomly on Tobi Kadachi's side, it actually adds a lot of color variety and depth to what is basically just a blue-scaled monster. Next, we are taking Darkenhof Nightshade and basically just flooding the monster with it. This is a dark blue paint that is very, very watery and very, very thin, and the purpose of it is to pool up in crevices so that it provides a natural-looking shadow between all of the scales and feathers. As shade and wash paints takes a very long time to dry in comparison to pretty much every other type of model paint, we are taking the opportunity to work again on the underside. We are adding this bone color as an extra texturing color on top. This is also the color we will be using for the teeth as well as the claws. Then the other undercarriage gets a shade as well, just a shade of brown instead of blue. And then while both of these dry, I'm going to be using a red to go over Tobi Kadachi's eyes as well as the inside of his mouth. Now that the shade on the top has mostly dried, we are going over the tail and scales once again in Blue Horror, just to give a little bit of extra highlights and mix everything together. We are going very, very light on this. Forgive the suddenly worse lighting. My phone battery got low, and so it automatically turns the flash off and wouldn't let me turn it back on. I will say we are close to the end though, so you won't have to deal with it for much longer, and I have good lighting during the final showcase. Lastly, we are doing 2 colors of dry coat. Dry paint is basically put just on the tip of a very stiff or very old brush, and then almost all the paint is immediately removed, and then the dry brush is quickly gone over the top, the very tip tops of where you want it to highlight. We are using ash for the undercarriage, and then rack white for both the undercarriage and the overhead, and I wanted to do this for the white for both of them, as I wanted at least one color to be on both sides to help bring it together and not look like 2 completely different color schemes. And you would be amazed at how well white goes on pretty much anything. I put it on the Bear Off last time and it looks like mud, and now it just looks like it's bright blue. It just takes the color of whatever's underneath it, basically, except just brighter.